Briar Haus Writes. I'm Becky Parker, and it is my honor to be able to meet with Cindy Rosmus today. She hails from New Jersey, and she is a tremendous writer. She is published in Shotgun Honey, Hardboiled, A Twist of Noir, Magazine, Beat to a Pulp, Out of the Gutter, Dark Dossier, and Twisted Sister, and several more, I'm sure. She is also the current editor and art director of an magazine called Yellow Mama, which is a really amazing noir and a horror magazine if you're interested. Cindy, welcome to our program today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Cindy, tell me about what drew you to writing.
I write all different kinds of strange things. I write real cutting edge. I don't write anything normal. I don't usually write anything literary. It could be noir, it could be crime fiction without any like really complicated crime in it. I'm not into like writing mysteries or anything. Noir, I love noir, but not necessarily what I'm going to write that's going to sound like typical pulp fiction noir from the past.
Right.
What started me writing, period. I was like 5 years old, very neurotic already, and no control over anything. So I realized I could take control by creating, by writing. So I would do storyboards, cartoons. And of course, I was always the star. And I created new friends and parents for myself always. And later on, it was celebrities too. And we were all on adventures together. But still, I always had to be the one in control running things. So I
What
was
was your
obsessed with that.
kind of adventures did you go on when you were that young?
Trips around the world. But you know what's funny? To this day, I've never traveled outside the US. I
You
don't
know
even
what?
have a passport.
Oh my goodness, girl, you need to get it.
I know. But
But it's amazing that at the age of 5, you were already creating
yeah, it was a
and
mess. I was ready. I was ready for something new. I tried to run away. I went to the door and my parents were walking me back in. I'm like, I'll never get out. I'll
oh
never
no.
get away. I was kind of precocious.
So when you talk about noir writing, um, tell me about the difference. And you mentioned this in the interview that you did a while ago, but tell us the difference between noir writing and true crime writing. Or is there a difference in your mind?
They're two totally different mediums. Noir is, if you're going to look at it from the old days, you have a real disgruntled PI, an anti-hero. And then
Hmm.
there's a femme fatale, this beautiful woman who walks into his life and ruins every guy that she meets. Sometimes
Right.
she's the killer, sometimes she's not. A lot of times there's always menace somewhere. There's somebody with a gun somewhere, somebody out to get you. Usually in noir, it's nighttime, it's rain slicked streets. You don't hear thunder, you just have like black, rainy streets. And it's always like in LA or Manhattan or something.
Hmm.
And there's danger. And in the end, it never turns out good. Nobody's ever happy. There's no happiness in noir. It's nothing pretty about it. True crime is something totally different. That's when you're writing about, let's say, Bundy or Dahmer or one of them. But then there's also like crime fiction where, like with Shotgun Honey, which is
Hmm.
the best flash fiction, crime zine out there. There has to be some kind of a crime or suggestion of a crime. It doesn't have to be anything violent. It could just be like shoplifting or something, but it's something. It's something where there's a crime committed. But what I like writing is I like some kind of danger there, some kind of punishment for somebody. Usually it's not like the characters are all bad. They could be troubled souls that just make really bad decisions all the time, loving the wrong people,
Hmm.
killing them, getting killed by them. I mean,
You like vindictiveness, being
yeah,
you like justification. Sounds like you really
yes,
believe in justice.
yes, I do. But then I also like get, tired of reading and receiving a lot of, let's say, submissions that are all about revenge. It's always like some husband's cheating on the wife, so they create this elaborate scheme to get back at them. And it's like there's so many you've just seen over and over and over again. But when something brand new comes along, then it's like, wow, you gotta wow me.
Well, tell me about that. Like because you were the editor of Yellow Mama. How did you become an editor? What led you to that from writing your own stuff to actually going and becoming an editor?
Well, Ken Christ, who's the publisher of Yellow Mama and Black Petals, and now he's the editor of Black Petals, has become his baby. That's our
Mhm.
parent scene.
Right.
Black Petals does mostly grisly horror and sci-fi. It's one of the best scenes out there. And we do, like I said, more noir, psychological horror, whatever. We were friends, and he published me several times in the past. And he said, "Hey, how would you like to start your own magazine?" because now we had gotten into the internet, the webzines, and he had suggested erotica because I used to write porn years ago, but I hated it. It got boring, but don't let me get into that. That's incidental. Um, but I said, well, what about crime fiction more? And he said, yeah, well, let's look into it. But then beside that, we wanted to do something that had something for everybody. Pretty much that's how it was in the beginning. Like we can have something that was more literary, more mainstream, something that was even inspirational. I mean, sometimes we publish a Western story, and you can have a Western noir type thing,
Right.
and sometimes something that's humorous. We don't publish the things I hate. I hate fantasy. I hate Dungeons and Dragons. Sci-fi's okay, but that's Black Pedal's
It's
territory.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate erotica, period. You're writing a story and there's got to be graphic sex in it for whatever reason, that's cool, but that's not the purpose of the story, because you just keep going and,
That's not
going to lead the
exactly,
same place.
yeah, that's not your bailiwick, sounds like. Well,
Not
when
at
it
all.
comes to someone produce pitching their own story to you, what are the things you said that you really like that are new? Because you don't like fantasy, like you don't like fairies and gremlins. What are
Hmm.
what are what's something that someone pitched to you recently that you just fell in love with?
Well, I'll open a manuscript and look, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm impartial, but I love a story written in the first person, almost like it's by the PI of a noir story. It just gets me, like if it's a Raymond Chandler or Kane,
Hmm.
Philip Marlowe, and it's like if you got to be sucked right into it. It's just got to take you somewhere. You got to know there's a conflict right off. You got to know there's passion in there. I mean, not necessarily a sexual passion, but something. It's got to go somewhere. And mostly I like flash. I like shorter stories. I prefer 700 words and less, and I'm writing a lot more of them lately. But I've gone up to 1,500 lately myself. I used to years ago do stories over 3,000. We have a 3,500 word max at Yellow Mama, but we do go over it. Like for example, in our Valentine's Day issue, we published a story called "Princess of the Silent Kingdom" by the late Fred Zachel. He wound up dying in between me accepting the story and the story being in print.
Oh
And it
no.
was always horrible. I know he's a brilliant man, and it was like 7,000 words, and we never published anything that one. But it was like when I read it, I was like, it's a takeoff on Sleeping Beauty, but from her point of view in the glass casket.
Oh
It
wow.
just picture all that's going through the minds of her and everybody around on the centuries of people walking past and looking at her. It was amazing. So something like that. And I even said to him at the time, I said, Freddie, you got to cut this. It's too long. He said, I don't know where to start. Do you want to do it? I said, no. And so I decided, let me run it in, its entirety. And what was wonderful was his widow said to me, I really appreciate you running his story in full. And that meant a lot to him that you were doing that. And
Oh,
that's another thing, Becky. We've begun publishing a lot more stories by people who have passed. And sometimes they pass in between the time. It's not a lot. I mean, it's not like a curse or
I
anything.
know what you
There's a
mean.
lot of people that have passed. And then there's people that have passed we found out years ago, we'll rerun their stories or we'll dedicate an issue to them, you know?
Kind of
So
like a eulogy to them.
it's true. And then there
Yeah.
were our family members, of our art director, our assistant art director, and other artists and writers that they've passed and will use their art. Like one of my best friends, Anne Marie Real, was the assistant art director for several years, and she passed a year and a half ago. And we're still using her art, and her husband feels that's wonderful. He wants her art still out there, so we'll keep using her covers and her artwork. And we don't usually write the late person. We'll say unfortunately they passed on whatever day. So
Right.
you know.
Well, when you talk about writing, and that you're writing, tell us about your process for writing. Because for some, it's really hard to go from the thought that's in here to writing it on pencil and paper. How do you do it?
Well, the story that I wrote today, which I did, like I told you, I wrote a first draft today of a story, was in my head a while. It just needed to get down on the paper. I had an idea, something had inspired it, something that had made me write another story, which actually is Slippery and Black Petals right now, the name of the story. It inspired it, and I just like kept seeing different things, like I can use this and that, and I can use that, and then you'd get memories, and they'd all come together. Sometimes it's from things from my past. Sometimes it gets triggered off from something out of the blue. You just like one of the stories I did. What was it? I did a story that's coming out in Punk Noir for their betrayal series,
Mhm.
170 words. It had to be under 200. And I got a thought that morning about something out of nowhere, though. I mean, it came to me that that was what the story was going to be about. And I wasn't looking at this, or this that would have triggered it off. It just came to me. So it's hard to say because I think with each writer, it's different. And
Mhm.
with the process too, it's like, how do I sit down and write? It's like I plan it, usually. I'm not somebody that says, well, I'm going to write every day. You can't because it's forced and it sucks if you're going to do it every day and it's just bad. And it's like I may start a first draft and not finish it, that I say, and it's torture. And I say, well, you got something to work from. Maybe tomorrow next week you go back to it. And then if you complete, let's say, the whole first draft, and I
Mhm.
usually say it's perhaps the worst thing I ever did. I say that a lot,
Right.
but my two readers that I love so much, my assistant art director from Bernice
Mhm.
and Ken Christ, the publisher, they're both my first draft readers, and they're very supportive. And if something needs to be fixed, it gets fixed. You know, but
Mhm.
I have to revise no matter what. I always revise. Yeah, but I got to give it a few days. I can't usually do it the same day. I just got to relax, have some wine, celebrate. Post myself on Facebook looking miserable. Look what I did today. It's the first draft face with the wine glass. You've seen it.
So, do you ever have anybody that you like any groups that you are a member of, or that you find that mentor you? I know Ken does, but do you belong to any kind of writing group? Because some of our writers that I interview, they actually belong to little critique groups that kind of help them, and some don't. It just depends on the writer. So, I was wondering if you felt that might be helpful for someone.
They are helpful. I haven't done them in years, but I used to go to writing workshops years ago, back in the 80s and all. And I used to also be involved in a Bayonne local group, but I'm not involved in any anymore. Lately, it's more of us, like, my Yellow Mama people, my
Right,
friends, writers, staff. We'll all like share with each other. Like Ken Christo send me his first drafts. We're all like a close knit group and we share. But writers groups are great. And then I do the F bomb series,
right.
um, either the first Friday of the month, or maybe I'll do one every few, because they don't, it's not fair for the same people to be reading all the time, even though I would read each time if I could, and they're great. And we inspire each other. It's great to sit there just like this. And it's international. I mean, we have friends and writers from all over New Zealand and England and Japan. And then we're all together in the same room. It's like not necessarily sunny in everybody's house, but we're all together, and
And
it's
and
it's
I think that makes a difference when you do have that community of writers. Because someone
yes,
once told me that writing is such an isolated process that they when they because it's just them and the page, and so it's very hard for them to be out there.
right.
They're very introverted, but it's just them and their brain.
When you're writing, it has to be that way. But when you're learning and sharing and being inspired by, then you need to be around people, you know. But
Right.
I need to be isolated to
Well,
write.
and I wanted to ask you, before you read some of your beautiful work, I wanted to ask you if you could be anywhere at any time in one of your stories, where would you
Oh,
be and what would you be doing
I
if
wouldn't want to be
you were
living in
the
any of them. I wouldn't want to be living in any of them. I know that I felt like during the pandemic, I felt like we were trapped wherever we were for a long time, like living in a spaceship. But
exactly.
I'm trying to think of any of my stories. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, probably any one of those bars sitting there, but just knowing nobody's going to come in with a gun,
And get you.
feel safe. Yeah. But the one place I'd love to go to and visit is Aoshima, I think it's called. It's Cat Island in Japan. This is somebody without a passport, where it's like 150 cats and like 10 people, 10 real old people. So it just sounds like it would be paradise for like a week, maybe. You're there writing, hopefully you'd have cell phone, you'd have internet, wine, I heard there's a cafe there every day that serves meals, or one meal a day or
Oh
whatever. And
wow.
it's like, yeah, but just picture, I love cats, some people hate them, but I love them, and they're
It's not
around.
it sounds like paradise. Sounds like it would be
Yeah.
it. Well, tell me about when you aren't writing, what are your hobbies and your interests? What are things that Cindy loves to do and be involved in? What are your
Okay.
passions?
Well, here's one.
I see the tail.
Yeah, I love hanging out. I love animals. I love taking care of them. I love drinking red wine. I like sitting in the window watching the neighbors. I'm nosy as hell. I love my TV shows, my catfish. I love Twilight Zone marathons. I live for those. That to me is New Year's Eve weekend, you know. I work out at the gym. I work out like 6 days a week, but I'm at the gym like 4 or 5, you know. And it's our same
Wow.
group early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you know, early. And then I log on for work later when I get home. I love my job too. You know, I'm a
What
copy
is,
editor.
I was going to ask you, what is your side gig? It's
My
being a
my
copy.
my house, yeah, my day job is I'm a copy editor for a big publisher, and I love it. You know, I work remotely,
Mhm. Well,
and
tell me, how do you have the discipline to be working out? I mean, because to me that would be very challenging to do it 5, 6 days a week.
it's just part of me. It's ingrained in me. It's like I gotta, you know, a lot of times I'm in a lot of pain for different like you know ailments and stuff, and you know that keeps me in control. You know, work out, then I can eat what I want. I love to
Whenever you
eat.
want.
I love junk. Well, I love chicken wings. Oh my God. Hot wings, all kinds of stuff.
All the
One
good,
of my
all the delicious food.
Yeah,
Um,
and one of my stories, the main character gets buried with hot wings.
really.
Actually, they have fried chicken in her coffin because the neighbors that came, actually one of them killed her, but nobody knows it
Oh
even by the
no,
end of the story. She's torturing them with the chicken wings because they're always mooching off her, you know, they're always in her fridge and taking stuff. So I thought that's a
neighbors.
nice send off.
Yeah, can you imagine? Cindy, take a moment if you don't mind and read to us anything that you would like to read. We would love to hear it.
Oh, cool. I want to read Kaboom. This story came out, and I have it. It's in Stupidity, one of my collections, but I searched the house, I can't find it. You
Oh
know,
no.
it's a mess, but that's okay. I got it on my phone. It appeared in Shotgun Honey originally.
Okay.
But boom, it's Flash. Yeah, it was me, and so what? He deserved it. 3 Christmases, RJ ran off with our gifts: Missy's dollhouse, Patty's Legos. This time it was the baby stuff. Year-old Lulu, his own kid, with the same cold, almost black eyes, like bullet holes on those shows where the bad guys always win. I knew he would do it. That one present, that's the one I rigged. The prettiest package wrapped in silver and red foil with the little stuffed kitten sticking out of the box. That's the only thing I hated about doing it. The kitten got blown up too. Never mind why I did it. Why do you keep stealing our presents? Sold them to get high. And Mom always let him, with that hopeless look she got when my brother Marky took another dump in his pants. And he was no baby. We were all fucked up, all 5 of us. Me, I was supposed to be dumb, but at the same time, smarter than some grown ups. How else could I build a bomb? A special kid in a special school instead of a real sixth grade class. Nobody was allowed to say why I was weird, but toy companies made special dolls for kids like me. Just for girls, I guess. The one girl in my class kept spinning around but could recite all the presidents backwards. An old mousetrap I found in the basement, the storage area. Our building is super old with lots of fun shit all over. Wouldn't have been fun for the poor mouse, though. Glad I found the trap first. And more fun shit on the other end. That weird guy upstairs, I think they were his. The shotgun shells. All those shows on like the true crime channels, you learn a lot. They're so stupid to give directions. Not everybody who watches wants to blow something up, but there's always one kid who's sick of the shit, like his mom's eyes all swollen more often than not, who busts out crying when she's nuking mac and cheese or wiping ass. When the pretty foil comes off and box opens, the bar in the trap hits the primer, 0 0 buckshot, 9 per shell, a nice big mess. You'd think Mom would be glad. But when the cops came, the lady cop looking like that weird redhead comic, Mom screamed and screamed. Chunks of RJ mixed with chunks of the dealer, the cops said. So you couldn't tell who'd worn the Giants cap. Couldn't tell who was black and who was white. The kitchen stunk. Marky had shit his pants again. For once, the cops came with good news, but nobody but me was happy. Not even Lulu. And it was really mostly for her I did it. She looked at me all mean, with Mom wailing in the background and the other kids holding each other. That lady cop kept her eye on me, the only one smiling. I hooked my pinky around Lulu's fingers. In her baby face, RJ's eyes told the cops that yes, I was special, more grown up than kid.
Wow. Did you know someone like that in your family,
Mm,
or any, or you said you write a lot from experience?
that kind of was inspired by somebody in my adopted family that I thought could possibly have done that someday, but it didn't happen, thank God,
Thank
But it
goodness,
was
yeah.
just an idea that I could see, it's possible because people get fed up with things. And then years ago, I knew somebody, I used to kind of be involved with somebody who used to get high and steal his kids' gifts and then go sell them back, and then they didn't have gifts. So I just knew someday that was coming, going to be used for something, because that's big, that's important, and that's real life. That happens. I mean, people think, oh, everybody's such happy childhoods. No, you could be the kid whose gifts were stolen.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, Cindy. Not everyone has a happy childhood, and they have some very hard things that they go through. And it sounds like that you've had some really difficult things that you've gone through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so how did you go through them and come out on the other side?
Well, one of the things that was hard to get through was being bullied in school, which a lot of people now it's become so so people are open about it now. But when we were kids, it was like we were tortured, and plus we had nuns, and they tortured us. They beat us. They had the right to just beat the shit out of you. She used to, the one nun in seventh grade used to grab me by the bangs, bang my head down on the desk. You know, that was under, the other one used to grab kids by the cheek and smack them on the other side. But then the kids used the tough kids, the nasty kids used to act like it was funny. All through school. Then it's like you knew you had to get out. You knew you had to get through it. You had no choice. You had to go through school. Yeah, then you had to go through high school, and then finally you say, "Let me out, let me out."
Hmm.
Then it's like then you're writing about that, and maybe you're not writing about the same people, but you're writing about that feeling that that you were tortured and that you could never look around and feel safe
Right.
anywhere. And then I think a lot of times a lot of my characters are attracted to guys and stuff like that, because those are the ones that abuse you. Those are the ones that you were always trying to please and never could because they just make fun of you.
Almost like a self-conditioning thing. Like
Yeah.
this is what you know. This is
Yeah.
natural to you. So you
Right.
can't expect life's going to give you anything different.
Sure. And I noticed too over the years, if I wrote a story about a woman involved with the wrong guy, somebody was really like, not nice to her, I'd get a reaction like, what woman would be so stupid to go through this? And now today everybody's like, that's what everybody goes through. And it's like, and then I would say with editors like that, and then yeah, who would believe someday I'd be one? I never would believe it. It's like I'm one of the writers that it took me so many years to get my first story published, accepted.
Hmm.
I'm talking like 4 or 5 years with 500 rejection slips that I had, paper ones in those days, in a shirt box under my bed. And then finally I got something, and I didn't even believe it was really accepted, sold to We Magazine. I got a phone call from the editor, and he had an English accent. And I thought it was one of my friends putting it on and joking. And it wasn't, no, it wasn't. It was a real person, and I really did sell it. And then it was a year and a half till the next story got taken. So
Right.
then it's like, was it a fluke? Will I never get published again? But then all this, what you go through. And I said, someday, who I never believed I'd ever be an editor. And maybe that's why I try to be extra nice as an editor. I mean, even if something isn't that good, I try to like give them some kind of encouragement, like to say, well, this didn't work for us, not a good fit or whatever, but try us next time. Or if something is good, but it has, mistakes or problems, or the one thing I hate the most is self-indulgent images, metaphors that let just draw attention to themselves. They slow down the action. You're like this. And it's always in a story that's like 5,000 words, where like 1,000 words are eaten up by that. And I'll say, listen, get rid of this, get rid of that. You're slowing it down. Got to speed it up. It's got to flow. Add more dialogue, and I'll give directions, and you get the most incredible stories as a result. Because these writers do want to work with you. Occasionally you'll get a snot that won't do it, like, no, I like it the way it is.
Like
Okay,
they would never
fine.
change their writing. They would
Yeah,
never change it. Right.
right. Leave it. Fine. Just
And
don't come back here.
you
I mean,
probably don't want to, have to drink Mylanta after reading their story, especially if they're
yeah,
that egotistical that they can't change what they
right.
need to do. Well, Cindy, tell us, I know that we can find you at Yellow Mama, but where else can we find, particularly, do you have like a website that's just devoted to your writing?
No, but I do have in Yellow Mama. There's the archives pages. So I
Okay.
have archive page. For there's two archive pages because we got so big, we've been in print for so long that, we spilled over and we had to like get another section of the site, And also I have books available on Amazon. I have three of my collections are available, three or four. Do I have them here? Ah, Backwards, Growing Up Catholic and Weird in the 60s.
Okay.
That's one. And Angela Manslaughter was my original collection reprinted. And then there's Stupidity, which is another good one. I wish I could find one. And I have,
Yes, you can also find Cindy at the library on your your Libby app. You can find Cindy. Like if you did you know that
no.
for the yeah go to like the Libby app and type in Cindy Rosmus and there's your work.
Oh, cool.
That is really cool. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for spending time with us today, sharing us a little bit about the writing process that you have, and really giving encouragement that, no matter what your childhood dishes out, things that you can't control, that there is a way to control you.
Right.
And
Don't give up. Nobody should ever give up. No. Don't go the opposite way. Just, know you're going to get through it. It's hard, but, you're
you're going
stronger
to do
than
it.
you think. Yes.
Well, Cindy, you were terrific, and I appreciate so much getting to talk to
You.
you.
Thank you. It's been great.